Thank you. If I could have the Vaughns come up for a second, please. And I really wish that I had waited to write this book so I could have included your son's story. But I want to give you my book, The Magic of Gun Control. It talks about a lot of heroes of America that have protected and preserved our Second Amendment, and I honor you for your son very much. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I can't imagine going through such a horrific thing and such a heroic thing at the same time, and being so frustrated like Brian Terry's family has been so much frustrated and not knowing the truth about why their son dedicated his life to his country and then seemed for not the right reason. But for those of us who really love America, we honor you and so honor your son. I'm really concerned about everything, and Billy, I think you really hit right on the head very passionately, that America is being destroyed. And Abraham Lincoln warned us that if we were to ever lose our freedoms in America, it would be because we falter and destroy ourselves. We are destroying ourselves, and we're watching that destruction, and our politicians tell us to just relax and not worry about it because the Constitution is living and breathing and everything's fine. And this is exactly how things are supposed to be going. Wow. We're supposed to be destroying ourselves, is what they're telling us. And basically what they're telling us is, just stay on the Titanic, everything's fine. We're sitting here listing at a 45-degree angle and half the ship is underwater, and they're telling us to stay on board.
Let's hope.
Yeah.
Hey, the band is still playing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 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 They were playing and they knew where they were going the whole time. So I really think this is an amazing opportunity. This is the first time I've been in the capital of Florida, although I've been to Florida probably a dozen times or more. Yes, Pam, we had a wonderful time at the Villages. Don't let her tell you that it's not fun there. It is. Yeah, we did. But I had a similar experience. I was at one of these at the New York State Capitol in Albany just about 8-9 months ago. I was small town sheriff, a has-been former sheriff from southern Arizona of about 35,000 people, was at the New York State Capitol doing a conference just like this in the Rotunda in New York. And I kind of looked around and said, what am I doing here? And I kind of feel the same way here. I'm in Florida. I'm from Arizona. What am I doing here? And I've had reporters ask me that recently. I was just in Salt Lake City, and we were at a freedom meeting there. And they said, well, how come you're here? What do you do? And I said, well, I basically do this all over the country. And they said, why? And I said, well, when I was sheriff, I did something really crazy. Didn't I, Bobby? I did something really, I'm going to tell you right now. And this was the one time that I did something crazy that my wife said, yeah, go ahead. Usually she's doing the wife thing and saying, Mack, are you nuts? And I sued the Clinton administration. The first thing about that is I lived to tell about it. Yeah. I didn't make that list that's going around the internet, of all the people that kind of disappeared. But yeah, oh gee, no kidding. So I've had lots of people saying, well, that's not your job. Why would you do that? You're supposed to be Graham County Sheriff. You're not supposed to, fight the drug war and set up roadblocks on New Year's Eve and catch all the drunk drivers and write the tickets and go to family fights and go to the schools and talk the kids out of from smoking pot and just generally keep the peace in the county and go to the parades and wave at everybody. And you know what I decided? I'm not going to any more parades and waving. I'm going to get in the mix. And what I knew then, I know even more now, is that if we continue to watch and let things happen without getting involved, then we're the problem. And we're as bad as the politicians that we came here to assail. And so I'm not going to go along with any more politicians. I won't even dress like politicians. That's why you'll always see me in a colored shirt. I will not be wearing a white shirt, a red tie, and a dark suit. You're not going to see me. I don't want to look like those guys. It's not going to happen. Even if I was in Congress, I would not dress like that, because I don't want to look like those guys. I don't want to act like those guys. I don't want to look like those guys. And I'm going to tell you right now, if any of you think that there's a solution in Washington, D.C., then I've got beachfront property for you in Omaha. It's not going to happen. Now you notice, I didn't say the villages or some other places around here where you live. I said Omaha. That's Nebraska. It's in the middle of the country. There's no beaches, you know. So that's the thing. There's no magic in Washington, D.C. They want you to believe there is. And when I first sued the Clinton administration, my motive for doing so was from my cold, dead fingers. My first book. And I wrote this just a couple of months after I filed the lawsuit against the Clinton administration. Because my motivation in filing, let's see, what's today's meeting? Using the 10th Amendment to preserve the Second? That's exactly what I did. I sued them on the 10th Amendment to stop the gun control associated with the Brady Bill. Now, how many of you know that there were actually 5 Brady Bills scheduled for your gun control enjoyment? Most of you don't know it. There were 5. They were going to pass one each year after the other for 5 years. Brady Bill 2 was introduced by Howard Menzenbaum 2 weeks after I filed suit on the first one. Just 2 weeks, March 14, 1994. And it never made it out of committee, and one of the reasons was because they were talking about a couple of sheriffs that have sued the federal government to stop Brady Bill 1. Why are we going to try to pass another one when the other one is still in court? It hasn't even gone to court yet. They've just filed. I filed the lawsuit the very day the Brady Bill took effect, February 28, 1994. And there's some amazing twists and turns about that whole story, and we could talk about it and really be intrigued for minutes. I would say probably a little bit more than that, but it's an amazing story in and of itself. How a small town sheriff takes on the federal government, the Clinton administration. Talk about a David and Goliath story. Now, David only wins in the Bible, and even then he doesn't win all the time. And this time, I was positive we were not going to win. I was positive we weren't going to the Supreme Court. People say, well, you intend this to go all the way to the Supreme Court? I'm not that stupid. This isn't going to go to the Supreme Court. This is going to be, they're going to squash me like a pumpkin seed. That's what I told everybody. That's what I told my wife. And yeah, that's why, I guess that's why she said, go ahead. You know, it's not going anywhere anyway, so go ahead, you know. So then just a couple of years ago, I wrote the sequel to that book, and I wrote the book, and this is what I gave the bonds, The Magic of Gun Control. You see, Washington, D.C. politicians, and some here in Florida, want you to believe that gun control in America is magic. And why do they want you to believe that? Because they have to. Because if you follow the history of gun control, and if you look at the truth about gun control, you'll know that there's no way in hell that it could provide any peace, safety, or liberty, or any benefit to you as citizens whatsoever. Gun control only enslaves, destroys, and creates chaos. And it gives complete and utter power to the government. And so the Founding Fathers wanted to make sure that when we developed our Constitution, that could never happen in America. Do your politicians here in this building know and understand that gun control in America is against the law? It's against the law. And now that we have all these bureaucracies established, even here in Florida, to help regulate how they will allow you to keep and bear arms. What? The entire purpose of the Second Amendment was to tell government, this is one rule you can't break, that you can't even come close to talking about. This is one of the untouchables. The purpose of the Bill of Rights was to establish a set of rules that government can never touch. And so now what do we have in Florida? Well, I want to share with you two things, two little stories that happened right here in Florida. One of them is about Megan Brown. Have any of you ever heard of her?
No.
Why wouldn't you know Megan Brown? She was Miss, I got to get this word right, words, Tierra Verde. She was Miss Tierra Verde, Florida in 2009. What's the matter with you Floridians? You should know all about her. She was Miss Tierra Verde. But the reason you really should have heard of her is because she killed a man in her house. Yeah, she did. Now, she was there with her boyfriend, Robert Pantherber, and some guy breaks into her home and starts beating her. Her fiancé jumps on the intruder and frees his girlfriend, Megan, the petite little former Miss Tierra Verde. She runs into her bedroom and gets her Christmas present from the year before. It's a snub-nosed pink Smith & Wesson. Yeah. And she'll tell you, and Robert even was quoted in the report, her boyfriend was saying that she's a horrible shot. They went to the range once, and she was horrible. And lo and behold, listen to this grouping. She shot the suspect several times, hitting him in the chest, groin, thigh, and back. That's not even close to a passing grade at the range, is it? I would highly recommend that she goes to Front Sight, Nevada, and really get some serious training in. But you know, on the radio, when I was on my way to the airport in Phoenix, they were suggesting on a very conservative radio show that they require by law that if you're going to own a gun, you have to get trained. That's not the prerogative. That is not government's prerogative. I think it's a great idea too. I also think it's a great idea that you wear seatbelts. And every state just about has a law that requires you to do so. I never enforced that. Do you understand that? Because you're saying that I want people to die in traffic accidents.
You're saying it wasn't your job.
I'm just saying that's not our job, it's yours. Okay? Now we would talk to people about it, and we would stop them and say, you know what, you need to get a restraint seat for your child, a child restraint seat. So, well, we don't have any money. Well, and then we told them how they could get them free. But we did not plunder their substance if they didn't do it. Okay? So, if you live in a free country, you have to allow people to make some of their own choices. That's what freedom is. Now, this story had a happy ending, but it didn't really get much publicity, did it? Even here in Florida. But I had to really look to find the story about Miss Tierra Verde, Megan Brown. But it showed one thing too, is if she had been required to pass a test, she probably would have flunked and she wouldn't have got a gun. And even though it wasn't a good grouping, she got the job done. Has it been the problem of public shootings that they miss and hit an innocent bystander?
No.
I don't know one time where that's happened. I know where the police have done it lots of times, especially recently in New York City. Yeah, but I don't know where a citizen is defending themselves and they actually shot the wrong person. And in this case, she didn't even come close to shooting her boyfriend. She got the guy, bang, 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 and bang, all over the place. Not even close to a good grouping, but she got the job done. It's not that, it's not rocket science. Point the gun, hold it firmly, and pull the trigger, And if you miss him, at least you're going to scare him. And that happened to a lady in a wheelchair in Washington State. She draws down on the suspect, she shoots at him, misses, and the guy immediately freezes and lies down and waits for the cops to get there. And he goes, "Thank goodness you're here to get me. This lady's crazy." And so the gun can do its job. Most of the time, luckily, you don't have to pull the trigger. You just have to brandish it and show that you're ready. And that's a wonderful thing. Another amazing story, right here in Florida, of course, is Sheriff Finch. And I went to Nick's trial. And what an amazing experience to watch such a farce happen right here in Florida. That your governor had a hand in. And that your attorney general should have stopped. And she didn't. But right after the trial, she did send a letter to Sheriff Finch asking him for his endorsement in the upcoming election.
Really? Seriously?
She did. Total truth. So, what is her name? Pam Bondi?
Yes.
Cute little blondie, isn't she? Yeah. And really another typical politician. So, the third party guy up here, man, he really looking good to me. They were really looking good, who spoke earlier. But Sheriff Finch went to jail. You know why? Because you have illegal gun control in this state. And it's called concealed carry permits. And Sheriff Finch went to jail, to his own jail, because of it. Now, Sheriff Finch, he didn't know about Oath Keepers. He didn't know about CSPOA. Oh, and by the way, I want every one of you to become a member of CSPOA. Yes, I know a lot of you are. Become a member in CSPOA. What does CSPOA mean? Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association. We believe in this too. And now we're starting to think that maybe this message, 2 words, Oath Keepers, is too cumbersome. It starts them thinking, let's see, what did I swear to? And then you have to get into what's the Constitution and what's the Florida Constitution and what's all that stuff. Okay, let's keep it simple. And that's what we're trying to do. And I work with Oath Keepers. I'm on the board of directors. But I've been preaching about the oath of office. In my first book, there's a chapter, this is 1994, and the chapter at the end is an open letter to all law enforcement, to our nation's law enforcement, and the chapter is about how we should all be keeping our oath. That's 1994. So now I just want this one question answered. Public servants, wherever you are, I don't care. I don't care if you're at the driver's license bureau. I don't care if you're the dog catcher. I don't care if you're a school teacher. In Arizona, if you're a school teacher, you have to swear an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution too. I don't know if you have to out here, but anyway, isn't that something? They won't uphold and defend it. They'll uphold and defend it, but they sure won't teach it. That's amazing that you'll swear an oath to something like that. And so then this is the key point here. Ask them one simple question. Will you stand for liberty? I want to hear that answer. I want to hear that answer really bad. Will you?
Yes.
Oh, no, but if you get in trouble with the IRS, I'll recommend a good lawyer. Well, boy, howdy, you're a great oath keeper, sheriff. I mean, how could we live without your attorney referral service? Thank you for that. And you know what? I saw my father go through an attack from the IRS. And what I will tell you from witnessing that myself is 2 things. One, if I had been sheriff at the time, I would have arrested 2 IRS agents.
Absolutely.
And I promise you that, I would have. Second, most Americans cannot afford to defend themselves from that onslaught. You can't. And so the question in my book that has really gone viral that I don't even have, it's in my briefcase over there. The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope. On the very first page, there's a question in that book. And this has started a national movement. And another thing, we're having a national conference, and it's a different one. It's not a convention. On January 24th, every one of you has an assignment now after you leave here today. I want you to call your county sheriff and invite him to our January 24th meeting. It's in Las Vegas. Their room and board is paid for. All they have to do is get there. You help them with that. Every sheriff in Florida is invited. Okay? Even the bad ones. They're invited. Now, in some places, we've made some exceptions, and we didn't, like the Salt Lake City Sheriff, Salt Lake County Sheriff, he's not invited. The other 28 in Utah have been invited, but the Sheriff Winder is not invited. Even some of the bad ones that you have here, I think that they're savable, and they're all invited, and you need to call them and ask them if they will attend this conference. Get them there. You need them there. You want them there. Now, some of them are going to tell you excuse like they're already going to the National Sheriff's Association meeting in Washington, D.C. I'm going to tell you right now, that's the biggest waste of time you could ever get. Okay? It's a waste of time. It's just part of the federal government. And so this is the thing. You have homework to get them there, because we're going to devise at that meeting a national agenda and strategy for putting the federal government on notice that there's a few things you're not going to do in our counties anymore. And we're going to send that declaration to the federal government, to all federal bureaucracies. Top on the list are two things. There will be no more gun control and no gun confiscation ever initiated in our counties. Second, the IRS will not conduct any raids, seizures, or random audits on citizens of our counties without our permission. How do we know? How do we know this whole thing is already working about protecting the Second Amendment through the 10th? Have you ever heard of Emmett, Idaho? It's a small town in Idaho. And the city council there, in a 5-1 vote, well, I wouldn't want to be that one guy, that one commie that's on that city council. The 5-1 vote, you voted in a huge majority to nullify the NDAA in that city. That our citizens will be protected from our own federal government. That's the answer. We have El Paso County with the lady that's on our board of directors, Peggy Littleton, nullified the NDAA and passed a resolution to protect the Second Amendment. They did too, and it was unanimous. The county commissioners of El Paso County, Colorado, passed that. You know, this is the beginning of taking back America. And how are we going to take back America? Go march on Washington? No. In our cities and our counties. We can safely rely on the disposition of our state employees, of our state officials, to erect the barriers against the encroachments of the national authority. That's why our last convention in St. Charles, Missouri was called Erecting the Barriers. And we had hundreds of sheriffs and chiefs of police and cops and public officials and city councilmen and mayors all working together for that. You want me to tell you who our CSPOA Sheriff of the Year was this past summer? It was the Black John Wayne. Sheriff David A. Clark Jr. from Milwaukee. 6'6". A little bit more dark complected than I. That's what I call him. And he's a friend and he's a Democrat. And he stood for the Second Amendment in his county, and he told all his county citizens to be armed and help him in defending the county. Now we have this happening all over the country, and then this little book is a copy of my Supreme Court decision. You want to get this, and you want to share it with your county legislators and your county commissioners and your state reps here. Do you want to know why you want to share this with all your state legislators, and especially your governor? Because the Mack Prince case, when two small town sheriffs took a case before the U.S. Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court came back, written by Justice Scalia, saying this, quote, "We have held, however, that state legislatures are not subject to federal direction." Are not subject to federal direction. Don't you wish they knew that? Yeah. All you have to do is show that this whole case has one huge theme, and it says this: the federal government is not our boss. And just recently, well, it was about 2 years ago, Sheriff Brad Rogers told the FDA that if they came in his county again to bother David Hostetler, an Amish farmer who refuses to pasteurize his milk, and they said, Sheriff Rogers told him, if you come in here again without due process and without signed warrants and without my permission, I'll arrest you for trespassing. And they haven't been back for 2 years. Woo! Now, and I know I gotta finish, and I'm going to, but I want you to imagine one thing. What would America look like if we had about 1,000 sheriffs like Brad Rogers?
A whole different country.
Do you have to ask Brad Rogers if he'll stand for liberty? No, you don't need to ask him. Ask your other sheriffs. Again, make sure you ask your sheriffs to be at that meeting January 24th. Just have them call me, have them email me, whatever. My email's real easy. I've got my card here. Anyway, my email is sheriffmack@hotmail. Okay, real easy. Get them there. You're now our ambassador to make sure that your sheriff gets there. If you want to get a chief of police there, great. Get them there. Sheriff Robert Douglas, or Chief Robert Douglas from Florida, is on our board, and he's already going. So we want them there. That we want them to be a part of this. Sheriff Finch is our keynote speaker in the morning. In the afternoon, it's all workshop to develop this strategy and this plan of attack, this plan of erecting another barrier against the encroachments of the federal government. Now, on the very first page of my book, the county sheriff book, we asked the question from Thomas Jefferson when he says, when all government shall be drawn to Washington as the center of all power, it will render powerless the checks provided and become as venal and oppressive as the government from which we separated. End quote. The question is this: to whom can Floridians and the people of America turn for peace, safety, and protection when government becomes out of control, venal, and oppressive? If not the very person that you hired in your county who promised you in God's name, in sacred solemn oath, that he would defend and protect and preserve your God-given rights as detailed within the Constitution. As we heard from Patrick Henry, and as we've heard from Mike and others here today, and Keith, when they're asking these same questions, will you stand for liberty? When Mike was talking about the oath, it hit me. When they said, what's an oath? What was an oath to the founding fathers? You would lay down your life before violating your oath. As an investigator, I want to know, I want to see, is there any evidence that our politicians here in Florida keep their word, keep their oath? Do you know what it would look like? It would look like this. You would hear a Republican or Democrat at least once say this: you know what? I think there's some merit to getting rid of guns or restricting guns or regulating guns and gun ownership. But I took an oath to the Constitution, and I have to keep that oath. And I know what the Second Amendment means, and I know what the Second Amendment intent was. And I can't vote for gun regulation and gun control. I can't vote for it because I swore an oath that I would not. That's what it would look like. Because their personal opinions be damned. It's not up to your personal opinion. It's up to the intent of those who wrote the Constitution. And there's no question about that one iota. I love America. I love Florida. I don't love your weather right now too much. We should have had this meeting in Arizona. It's really what it's supposed to be. It's 72 in Arizona today. But thank you so much for having me. God bless us, and let me tell you once again, you have homework to do, and the way we take back freedom is county by county and state by state. Thank you so much.